Let me show you what's happening right now on this border between Ukraine and Russia. Over here in Kursk Oblast, you've got this fascinating situation unfolding. Russian President Putin claims 2,000 Ukrainian troops are surrounded, while Ukraine's military leadership says that's completely false. But to understand what's really going on here and why both sides are making these claims, we need to look at how this border region became one of the most dynamic battlegrounds in this war. This story really starts back in August 2024, when Ukraine did something unprecedented. They launched operations into Russian territory, specifically here in Kursk Oblast. What started as small raids suddenly turned into something much bigger. Ukrainian forces pushed across this border, establishing what military experts call a salient, basically a bulge of controlled territory pushing into Russian land. Now let's pause for a moment and look at what makes this region so important. Kursk sits here just north of Ukraine's border. It's one of Russia's key military logistics hubs, with railways and roads that support Russian operations. When Ukraine pushed into this area, they weren't just taking territory. They were threatening Russia's ability to supply its forces further south. But here's where things get really interesting. On October 24, 2024, Putin made this bold claim at the BRICS summit in Kazan. He said Russian forces had encircled about 2,000 Ukrainian troops. The number itself is significant. It's about the size of a brigade. That would be a major tactical victory for Russia, if true. But Ukraine's commander-in-chief Syrskyi immediately responded, calling it blatant disinformation. Let's break down why this matters. Since August, Ukraine has lost and gained territory in this region multiple times. It's what military experts call maneuver warfare. Positions change hands sometimes hourly. What Putin's claiming as an encirclement might actually be just part of this fluid battle situation. But there's another layer to this story that makes it even more complex. At the exact same time Putin's making these claims, something unprecedented is happening. North Korean troops are arriving in Kursk Oblast. This isn't speculation. Ukraine's military intelligence reported that the first North Korean units arrived on October 23rd. We're talking about a deployment of roughly 12,000 North Korean personnel, including 500 officers and 3 generals. Think about that for a moment. North Korea, one of the most isolated countries in the world, is sending troops to fight in Russia. This isn't just unusual, it's historic. The last time North Korean forces fought outside their peninsula was during the Vietnam War. Here's what makes this situation so significant. These North Korean troops didn't just show up overnight. They've been training for weeks at various Russian military facilities, places like the Baranovsky training ground in Primorsky Krai, way over here in Russia's far east. They've been preparing specifically for deployment to this region. But why would Russia need North Korean troops? Well, that brings us back to the numbers. Since August, according to Ukrainian military leadership, Russian forces have lost over 17,800 personnel in this area alone. That includes about 6,600 killed, 10,400 wounded, and 700 captured. They've also lost 45 tanks and hundreds of other vehicles. Those are massive losses in just a few months of fighting. The timing here is crucial. Putin announces this alleged encirclement of Ukrainian forces right as North Korean troops are arriving. It's a moment where Russia's trying to project strength while simultaneously bringing in foreign troops to bolster their forces, two things that seem to contradict each other. And here's where we see something really telling. Belarus's President Lukashenko, traditionally one of Putin's closest allies, publicly questioned this strategy. He said bringing in North Korean troops would be undesirable for Russia and could lead to escalation. When even your closest allies are publicly questioning your military decisions, that tells you something about the situation on the ground. Let's look at what Ukrainian forces are actually doing in this region. They've maintained what military experts call operational mobility, the ability to move forces in and out of the area freely. They control sections of the border, which means they're not actually encircled in the traditional military sense. An encirclement means cutting off all supply lines and escape routes. which isn't what we're seeing here. The reality is that this situation represents something bigger than just military tactics. It shows us how modern warfare has evolved. We're seeing a smaller military force conducting operations inside a larger country's territory, while that country responds by bringing in troops from halfway around the world. What we're witnessing in Kursk Oblast isn't just about 2,000 troops who may or may not be surrounded. It's about how desperation can lead to unprecedented military decisions, like bringing in North Korean forces. It's about how claims of tactical victories can be used to mask strategic challenges. And most importantly, it's about how the rules of modern warfare continue to be rewritten right before our eyes. The question now is, what happens next? Will these North Korean troops change the dynamics of the fighting in Kursk Oblast? How will Ukraine adapt its tactics, knowing they're facing not just Russian forces, but also North Korean units? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear. This border region has become one of the most important battlegrounds in a war that continues to surprise the world with its twists and turns. Subscribe for more.